Super fired up to have this guy on the podcast today. This will be the last podcast I'll be shooting at Crankworx, and no better way to end it with this guy, because last night what he did was nothing but amazing. They're calling him the MJ of SlopeStyle. He's won this event 3 times now. He's won the Rebel District rides. He's won pretty much every SlopeStyle event that you can possibly do. Super fired up to have Emil Johansson on the podcast today. The champ is here. What is up, Emil Johansson? And what's going on? What's up with that sling? What's up with that?
Well, I just got the shoulder checked out. I can probably get my arm out of it, but I really shouldn't. Yeah.
What? Like, hold on. I just watched you win last night, and you didn't crash.
I crashed in practice, and damaged the AC joint. It's just like a sprain, but
hold on. So you won Crankworx last night, like injured?
Yeah, somewhat for sure. I was on painkillers trying to reduce the pain from it, and then just push through it. I didn't manage to ride that much leading up, like from the crash. I crashed like 12:30ish. Contest ended up being at 7. I think I did like 4 laps from the crash to the contest run. So it wasn't really ideal.
See, I didn't know you took a crash, but I watched you run yesterday, and I was like, oh, he held back.
Yeah.
Is that because the injury, or because you were the last person to drop in and you knew what you needed to do to win? Which one was it? Because
a bit of both.
The reason I'm saying that is because on the double, you did a 3 invert to X.
Yeah.
Usually you throw a tail up in there, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you didn't do that. And I was like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah, definitely. Like I did the tail whip in practice. It was actually a trick I crashed on because I got wind blown so heavily when I came around, and the wheels kind of moved underneath me. So I was just like, I'm not trying to do that if I'm just trying to, because my shoulder, I could feel how I compensated for it already when I did the practice laps, how if I landed heavily, I kind of leaned over to one side. And if you watch the contest run, I have 2 landings in my run, the windshield wiper as well as the 3 double downside tail whip. I land and I kind of go really back heavy. And that was all to do with that. I wasn't confident to like lean over the bars enough to like withstand the impact like you should take it. So I got kind of squirrely throughout the run, and I was just like, I just really desperately wanted to get down the hill, but still do as much of a complicated run I could do and claim the World Tour title. Because if I wouldn't have made it down the hill, like claiming that would be really difficult. So yeah, I just try to play it safe as possible. And yeah, just trying to make it down the hill, really.
I mean,
which is usually what we always try to
right.
do. We always try to get down the hill,
Yeah.
but in these conditions, when after Torquato crashed, I also started kind of figure out that it would probably be a 1-run contest, because we were aiming at a 2-run contest, but most riders were informed early on that if something happens during the first run, like someone crashes or it takes a longer time or wind picks up, we might be looking at a 1-run contest. And
so they gave you a heads up before you guys dropped in, like, hey, this is probably going to be it. 1 run.
Yes.
That's cool. That's what they did in 2005.
But like, it wasn't clear. They didn't say this is a 1-run contest. It was like, could be, could not be. So most riders definitely went into it, I would have assumed, thinking it was going to be a 2-run contest. It's unfortunate when you don't land your first run.
Right.
But when you do land your first run at
You're
a contest,
like,
you
keep
like,
it 1 run.
Yeah, you're like, fuck it.
I don't want
Yeah.
the second run.
Yeah,
No.
totally.
I thought it was only gonna be a 1-run contest.
Yeah.
I mean, this weekend was a little different for you, huh? I mean, you guys got kind of like balled up yesterday. You guys were supposed to like practice in the morning. You guys really didn't get to do that, right? And a couple days not practicing because of the rain. Like, how do you like mentally like prepare yourself to go to war after all these little fucking curveballs getting thrown at you?
Definitely a really difficult week trying to be prepared for the event. Like, I had big goals for this week. Results wise, I managed to accomplish them all, like goals that I had when just blindly looking at the results. But looking at what I wanted to have in my run and looking at what tricks I wanted to bring out, I did not even get close to doing what I really wanted to do and achieve throughout this week. And I think that goes for most riders. I feel like we all were kind of held back by the conditions yesterday as well as the practice week. And it was really tricky throughout the week to gain confidence on the course, because going into the week we had heavy rain. First day rained out. Second day the course was running really slow, so it wasn't until like Thursday morning, I would say, that the speed kind of started to pick up. But then Friday was really windy as well, and then the end of the course was closed due to other events going on, like the speed and style as well as dual slalom. So I believe I had like maybe an hour and a half of time sessioning that last jump. So I felt really underprepared there. And it's easy if you go into a contest knowing exactly what tricks you want to do. But for me, I really like to have a lot of time on the course, because if I do a trick up top, that might change what I do at the bottom. Because then, like, looking at the big picture, I want to include certain tricks back to back. I want to do certain things and like get the full picture and not just like have one banger up top and then just kind of shit all the way down,
Right.
you know? So for me, the more time I get on the course, the better.
So yesterday's run, what stressed you out the most was the last jump.
Hmm?
Yesterday during your run,
Yeah.
you said you didn't get to practice that much, and would you say the last obstacle was like your most challenging one? Like, is that the one that you were kind of stressed out on? Like,
no, I wasn't that stressed out on that feature. I was more stressed out on the hips, actually, because due to, first of all, the wind and the speed throughout the week. The wind, the sun, and the speed. So the sun was a big issue. That was one of the reasons we didn't drop in, because they kind of scheduled the contest to be at a window where we would be done with the contest before the sun got bad, and it would be good light on the venue and all the stuff that the production wants, you know.
right.
Unfortunate though is that during that time of day it's usually very windy, so we needed to push it.
Good.
But with that said, during the time we were warming up for the contest and actually started committing to like, this will probably be possible, we couldn't see anything on that first hip. So it wasn't until like the contest run that I actually kind of somewhat saw what the lip looked like properly. So it's just sketchy when you're going into things and you really got to make sure you carve off the lip the proper way in order to land at the spot you're going for. Because if you have a straight jump, it doesn't matter if you take out from the left or the right of the ramp, it's still the same distance. But if you take off a bit more to the left and right, it might be a meter, and that might be what makes the difference between casing and not casing. And in practice, as I said, I had a crash. I kind of carved off the lip. In my instinct said that was the right way to do it. But when I came around, I kind of got caught in the wind, which made me case the jump. And that's the whole reason I crashed. Just because I came up short and kind of off axis with the wind picking my tires or like grabbing the wheels. So,
damn. When you hit the ground, did you think you were like in big trouble? Like, did you think that you were going to be able to compete, or you're like, oh, okay, I can...
I didn't think I was going to be competing.
No way.
I set up and
the fact that you're doing this interview right now with the sling is crazy to me.
I remember everything from the crash. I did, like, my head hit the ground and I wasn't sure to what extent. So I sat there for a second and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling fine. Nothing is really feeling that bad, but I'm not 100%. In my shoulder, I could feel as I sat up how my shoulder just like kind of dropped on me. I'm like, my shoulder shouldn't be down there, it feels off, and it was super sore, and I started touching it. I'm like, this isn't right. Like, and then I started moving around, and the more I moved it, the more I realized how it wasn't like it should be, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was very like at that, like honestly, I'm usually a very patient person when it comes to things, but at that moment I was so drained from the practice session we had. It was not ideal. We've been pushing through hours of trying to like ride a course and get warmed up for a contest that just seemed to be way too windy to even be having a contest at that day.
Nothing was going in your favor.
Nothing, yeah. And I was just like, oh, this is it. Like, I didn't think I was going to be riding. And then we taped it up. I ate some lunch and got my energy levels back up, and then gave it another go a couple hours later. But yeah, it isn't really until things like that happen to you that you realize how fine the line is between being able to, first of all, just be in the start gate, but also perform, because there's so many risk factors involved in just the practice leading up to the contest, and shit happens all the time. Like, I had a weird crash on a 3 down whip during practice. I was just spontaneously gonna do a 3 down whip over this small step, like the first step down on course, and when I popped off, I kind of hit the back of my foot on the back wheel, so the bike kind of chased me into the spin. And a 3 down whip, you kind of want your bike to stay or kind of go further away from you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of caught up to me, so I need to bail on that. And it's just like random stuff like that can be it. Like, that's your whole week. And you see that especially yesterday when it was only a 1-run format, or ended up being only a 1-run contest, and riders not being really prepared. I don't even know if 50% made it down yesterday.
For you, would that play, like, how does that play in your, I don't know, how you tackle your run? Because I mean, you're so technical. Your riding is so tech. Like, you're spinning, throwing a little bar in there with the whip. Like, your riding is a lot more technical than the other slopestyle athletes. And does that play a big factor when, like, the conditions are not perfect and you only have that one chance to stomp that run?
Definitely. I can definitely look with jealousy at some other riders' riding styles when it comes to wind. Because when I'm like sticking to like a single spin trick, but I'm doing multiple tail whips or bar spins, multiple different directions, the slightest off axis that the wind can push you in can be the difference between landing and not landing it properly. And more than anything, like, usually it doesn't end with a crash, but it ends with a non-achieved trick. Because you go into, like, let's say a simple one, you're going into a 360 and you want to spin your bar twice and then do tail whip. If it doesn't feel right after a second bar, you can just skip the tail whip and kind of figure your way out of it. But if you're going for the tail whip and the wind catches you, you're like very fragile, I would say.
Right, because I feel like the wind would affect more of a riding style that you showcase, opposed to like someone like Nikolai, right? That just spins and flips, and he's like, I'm gonna just triple whip everything. Like, I feel like when you add those little technical elements to your riding style, it just, the slightest wind or the slightest carve off the lip plays like the biggest impact with it. So like, I would like, so that's why I was kind of asking. I'm like, okay, so like I saw that you didn't do that down whip after the 3 table, and I was like, oh, is that because of the wind? I didn't know, like, your shoulder was jacked up.
No, that was more than anything, was just a shoulder. I was like, if there's any part of the run that I'm gonna like lower my level at, I can select the ones that I feel like can be more damaging to the shoulder than others. And I felt like coming into that jump, I felt going into, like, it was an instant blink, like it was just instinct wise. Like going into the run, I was planning on doing a 3-on turn onto down whip.
To down whips. Because I saw it coming, and I was like, oh.
But I was like, the way I carved it, and I didn't feel comfortable in that situation to do it. So I was like, well, I'm calling it. And I just changed my mind midair.
but obviously it played out, and dropping in last, you're so calculated because you're like, you know what, I don't need to add that tail up to still win this event. You played your cards right,
yeah,
because you knew like you didn't have to do that. You're like, okay, I don't need to add the tail up. I just got to do this down this jump, blah blah blah, like all the way down. If I do that, I'll still calculate enough points to still win. Just because you
Both
knew,
yes
because
and
you
no.
didn't have that second run, because you knew you didn't have that second run to fall into, right?
Yeah, both yes and no. It's interesting. Like the more contests I've done and the more tricks I learn and the more experience I gain, the less confident I am in where my run is going to end up. Which is something that come across to me recently, because I've done it for so many years now that it's because the tricks I do are different from the majority of the field. The majority of the field don't do the tricks I do even regular, and I do some of them opposite. But that goes both ways. I don't really do double flips in contest. I don't do the cash rolls. I don't do those tricks that most other riders do in contest runs. I still do cash roll. I still do like cork sevens both ways regularly when I'm home, but it's not something I have valued in contest runs the last couple of years. And something that's slowly been fading away as I've feel like more technical tricks that I have, and when you only have so many features on a contest course, I really want to make sure that I put as much wealth in the technicality as I possibly can, you know?
Right.
So that have led me down the path I am on right now. And with that said, it can be really hard to know how your run is going to score, because I'm just as much of a fan of the sport as I am a competitor in the sport.
I can see that.
So I love seeing their runs, and I'm like more hyped to see other people land their run than I might be when I get down the hill myself. So to be objective and not look at it from a pure excitement perspective, it's very difficult. And that also goes to show how difficult the judging is at a contest, because they need to be very objective in the decisions. Okay, this rider's doing this trick, this direction, at this jump, with this speed, with this amplitude, and being objective from run to run, and then on top of that valuing in how much an individual style weighs up what they did and their amplitude and things. And it's a really difficult job.
I would never want to do that. I've been asked to judge a few contests, and I said no, because it's the easiest way to lose friends. And I can't relate to it, and I can't follow it. You guys are progressing. You guys are progressing. You guys are just taking it to a whole new level, and I can't even like follow up with what's everything that's going on in the slope game right now. It's fun to watch, but to like learn everything that you guys are doing, opposites, switch, and just like being directly focused on each little tricks that's getting thrown in these spins and flips is super hard to like follow, especially when you have the whole field that's doing it. It's crazy. The scene's crazy now. It's in a good spot though. You guys are crushing it.
Yeah, it's developing really fast. It's crazy to actually be a part of it, and it's moving so fast, and it's also in a situation where most of the tricks that happen, a lot of tricks that happen at a contest is only performed by the few athletes that are at the contest,
right?
And no one else outside. So
how'd you prepare for this event? Did you switch anything up?
Not necessarily anything major switched up. I had a couple of tricks in mind for the event that didn't end up happening, as well as a couple of things that ended up happening. Like tricks wise, I learned this nollie nose press 360 can of the drop. So I really wanted to get that included in my run. But besides that, nothing really different compared to the contests before this year.
You're just a machine. Like, what's the training facility back home like? Like, what's your setup?
I commute to an indoor skate park, or skate park would be the wrong name. The name of the place is Dome Adrenaline Zone. It's an indoor bike park. They have a foam pit. They have an airbag landing setup as well as a pump track, and that's what's there really. And then there's 2 other skate parks within like an hour and a half of commute. So that's Dome is an hour and a half away, and then the other skate parks are within an hour and a half. So I commute like 3 to 4 times a week to go ride for the day or the afternoon, and then go home during the winter time, fall and spring, whenever the weather is bad. And during summertime, we have an outdoor setup with a couple of jumps, similar airtime as here at Crankworx. So it's quite easy for me to feel comfortable once I get out here. And that's about what we have. We also have a small indoor facility in town, which is a part of the school program that they have there, that I attended when I was 16 till I turned 18. And that has like a small mulch jump as well as a BMX track. So you can like learn basic tricks and learn how to pick up speed on the BMX track. But I rarely go there nowadays.
And you have some property with some jumps as well, right? That's
that's a jump spot as I was talking.
Do you have a house on there?
No, so that's a public. That's public land. It's like Rick's right next to.
For some reason, I thought
his,
you owned that. I see clips from it all the time. But I thought that was like your little private. You bought that property.
No, it's quite expensive to buy property.
It is,
and it's only recently I actually bought a house in April or May, so I moved into that in June. So before that, I just been living in an apartment with like, I don't even know how many bikes. I have like more than 10 probably. So like, it's been quite difficult to fit my passion into an apartment and having an office and a bedroom, and like my life is biking, but it's difficult to have a life outside of that when all you see when you get into the apartment is just bikes everywhere.
I bet. I mean, I know it's expensive to buy property, but you're stacking some cheddar. You're doing some things in this space. Like, what do you do with your money? Do you invest it? Like, what? I mean, you're stacking it. What are you doing with it?
As of right now, I've just been saving up for a house.
Is that the goal?
That's been the goal for a number of years, and now we reached the point where I'm able to do that. And I don't really know future wise. Definitely looking at making sure that my money maintains its value, but it's not something I'm heavy into. It's more for me like money is sweet, but for me, like, I enjoy being here and pushing myself more than money.
Right.
So
you're gonna have a way bigger impact doing that than another zero in your bank account.
Definitely.
I mean, did you ever think that you would win Crankworx Joyride 3 times?
No, I didn't. It's been a lot of those moments. I kind of gotten really numb to it by now. 4 years ago here, I won my first ever Crankworx. I was kind of in the heels on Brett for a couple events. I was really close to him, but I never really catched up. But this event 4 years ago, I managed to get a better score than him. And ever since then, I've, out of the 14 Crankworx events that has taken place, including that one event in 2019, including that, those 14 events, I've won 13 of them. And it's kind of been like second person to win the Triple Crown, first person to win it twice, first person to win it 3 times. And then like I had a 8 contest winning streak, and then I crashed, knocked myself out, got back next event. Now I'm on the 5 event winning streak, and it's just like time and time again. Like I don't know. It's been so crazy to be a part of it. It's like it's been impossible for me to like sit down and actually realize what's been going on and what's happening. Like I took home the overall for the 4th time. I got it first time back in 2017. Injured and out for the most part of 2018. Got back in 2019. Crashed out on the first event, which made my points go way below the rest of the field, even though I performed well at the other events that were that year. I think I got like 5th in 2019. Got back in 2020, won the 2 events that happened during the pandemic, but no overall because of travel limitations for certain athletes, which is totally fair. It was during the pandemic. It was very uncertain times. People didn't really travel. Some people couldn't make the events. And then 2021, second time I won it, and then 22, and then this year somehow again.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think you were gonna do it because a lot of people failed to get that 3rd ring. Myself, Reader, Zinc. There's only one other person that has more than 3 rings. That's Brandon Semenek. And you're right there. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't want you to win yesterday because I'm like, oh, he's gonna pass me. That was so cool because I thought I was like, it was just Zinc and I and Brandon with more than 1 ring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want this guy to win. I want somebody else. But I'm glad he did. And since you did win, I got you a gift.
What is this?
I got him a Cristal, and I want you to celebrate that and share it with the homies, with the other riders.
That is very nice of you.
Yeah.
I will do that tonight.
And no, I'm just stoked that, dude, I'm stoked. I'm stoked where you're at in life. I'm stoked what you're doing in the sport of SlopeStyle. It's a gnarly game. It's a challenging game, and you're making it look easy, dude. And now I want you to go and get more than 5 rings. And I think you will. I think you're on that path, and your story inspires me because I know it hasn't been an easy journey, dude. You've gone through some shit in life, and the way you bounce back from it is crazy. Like, how are you doing with your autoimmune disease right now? Like, does that affect you at all? It doesn't seem like it, but are you still seeing any complications from it?
I definitely, like, at the moment, things are better than it's been. Right now I'm in a situation where I'm not really looking back. I'm trying to escape that part of my life because it wasn't a pleasant time in my life, and it's something that I've kind of been pushing away the most I can because I never want to go back there. And yeah, I kind of took it one day at a time and slowly got stronger and stronger physically and immune system wise, that I feel like my situation stabilized enough to the point where I'm just as normal as I was before, I guess, it broke out. And yeah, I don't know, I've just learned to live with whatever I have and don't have, and try to adapt to it the best I can, and like really making sure that I listen to my body and making sure that
Where were you mentally during those times though? Because you took a whole year off.
It was a dark time.
Yeah.
It was really dark.
What helped you get past those dark moments?
I don't know. It's something that just, I don't know. It's like something that just exists inside of you, like that urge and feeling to like.
I think you got to go more details about the situation. You didn't have any like energy to get out of bed. You had no strength to ride a bike. Like, you were told you were never going to ride a bike again. And like, your career literally started a year before that. You just signed with Red Bull. You got all the big endorsement deals. And then this shit comes upon you.
Yeah,
like,
it was just,
come on.
It was so much at the same time. So what happened was that 2017 season happened, and during the fall of 2017, the heavy travel schedule, and I don't know, I was getting back to school as well, and then just sponsors, obligations, all of those things, as well as training as much as I possibly could, ignoring recovery, ignoring sleep. I got to a phase where I was getting sick all the time, and I would get sick and I would like feel swollen in my throat for like 10-14 days, would start feeling better again, then get sick again. As soon as I would like start training, I would get sick. So I had diagnosis was like I had 2 bulging discs in my lower back. I was really weak at the time. Like I grew immensely from I was 15 till I was 18. My strength didn't really catch up, and I really struggled with like the whole, like my core wasn't strong enough to like withstand the heavy impacts of competing and just riding. So yeah, back issues. Did MRIs. It was showing that I had bulging discs. You don't really do anything about that situation. You just got to make sure you train and like get back up to strength and hope that they don't interfere with you pain wise that much more. And yeah, I tried to do that, but as soon as I would like start training again, I would get sick, and I was like, my immune system was really weak at the time. And I don't know, it's like 2 weeks passed, a month passed, 4 months passed, 5 months, 6 months, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm in this rut where I'm like, I haven't really been riding at all. I haven't been able to train at all. At the time, everything started with a trip to Munich, where I went to Munich because my agent at the time was based there, and he had some contacts for physiotherapy. A physiotherapist that was a trainer that would kind of supply me with a training program that I would follow through, and hopes that that training program would make my body strong enough again to like not have back issues. And yeah, it started with that, but I got there and I went there one time for a week. Everything seemed to be on the right way again. And we did some x-rays, and like I got a training program, went home, tried to do that. Didn't really successfully do it because I was getting sick all the time. And another trip to Munich a month later, and then yeah, I just struggled to keep my health or like try to stay healthy and not being sick or ill. So it wasn't until July. At this time, it's been like almost 8 months since I was it's been more. Like I was able to get on my bike like I would say like 5 times throughout the duration from like beginning of November till mid-July 2018. So we're talking like 6 plus 7, 8 months almost without consistent riding, and I wasn't able to train consistently either. And then I went to this special immunologist. I don't even know the name. Like they work on immune system wise. And did some blood tests, and it showed that my antibodies in my thyroid were high, and I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which like it's not the end of the world, but you still got to figure out a way how to adapt your life to it and live with it. And I've made a bunch of lifestyle changes. Like I started avoiding certain things, such as like gluten, dairy. I don't eat any eggs. And then I did a bunch of other tests to see what type of foods that I was sensitive to and that would like irritate my body. And then I would say everything from like summer 2018 to 2019 was just a huge learning curve for me, trying to like gain understanding on how I was gonna be able to adapt and listen to my body. And I was up until like 2020, I would maximum be able to like ride and train for 3 days in a row, and then I needed like 1 or 2 days rest. And it was like train 2 or 3 days in a row, then 2 days rest. Like I wasn't able to like train consistently, and it's not until like later that my body's gotten stronger again that I'm like able to like go and consistently train heavy weights without falling back.
So if you end up eating like shit, eggs, dairy, will it flare back up?
I'm actually not sure it will flare back. Like I'm not sure, but I know, like I can't say it's for granted, or like I can't say with 100% that it will flare back instantly. But the more stressful of a lifestyle that I have, the more likely I am to have issues.
Right.
So it's very tricky. It goes for everyone. Like no matter what health diagnosis you have or not, like you got to make sure you don't stress too much. But I have so much in my life that I want to do, and there's so much
so young
writing and like things that I want to be part of, and I've needed to like learn to say no to a lot of things in order to like just stay healthy. I can't go out and party half as much as some of my friends can, just because I get sick, and like there goes 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I haven't been able to like ride my bike, and then I get all depressed and shit because I'm bored.
Right.
You know? So I'm just like really just prioritizing what I want in my life, and that's what I'm doing.
You've done so much in your life. Like, what's the proudest achievement that you've done so far? Like, when you look back at your career today and you're like, damn, that was cool. Like, I'm so proud of that because I didn't think that was possible.
The first one that comes to mind is when I won the World Tour title back in 2017. I was a rookie back in 2016. I was a freaking Grom. Like I was the youngest in the field by years. Like I think the closest in age was probably Anthony Masseri. He was 3 years older than me. Besides him, there were no one within my age group that I was competing against. This is top 20 dudes in the whole world. And somehow throughout that year, I was the one that managed to collect the most consistency throughout the year to secure the overall title. Which 1 year before, I was sitting in my apartment, like the apartment I had through school. I was roommating with 2 other dudes, and I was trying to like write emails to get sponsors. I was trying to figure out a way how to, once I graduate school, be able to have a living from riding bikes. And I was in second or year 2 out of 3 at school then. Fast forward 1 year to 2017. I'm just going to start my 3rd year at school, and I've throughout that year already made thousands of dollars from contest achievements. And I all of a sudden had signed contracts with Red Bull, and I was on my dream sponsors like Trek, SRAM, RockShox, and all these things. It's the most insane chapter to look back at, going from basically sharping over logos on my bike because no one was paying me. So I'm like, I just want a black bike, a stealth bike, to go from that to being a part of bigger companies that I like their products from. And I've always wanted to be a rider for them. And I was riding their stuff before I even signed with them. And to be part of that, like that evolution is just that in itself is something very few people get to experience, and something that I look back with a lot of joy on, and I'm proud of that transition. Second proudest moment is getting back from all the adversity and getting back to what I like doing. Because I feel like I could have easily let that define me. I was like, yeah, I've been world champion, whatever. and just move on with my life and not continue to pursue this journey.
I mean, you said it good, man. Like, the fact that you were never supposed to ride a bike, the autoimmune disease that you had going on during that time of your career, and then coming back and doing what you did is it's a story that people need to know, and I'm stoked that you're open to telling about it, because I know those years were not bright. I know you were in a dark spot, and to overcome that, that's huge. Where do you see the future of slopestyle going? Do you think you'll ever be in the Olympics?
I would hope that it one day makes it there. I don't like slopestyle, mountain biking. The sport we do has like zero media attention when it comes to regular newspapers, TV, nothing, like close to zero media or news coverage. Even though the people involved in the sport are doing things that has never been seen before. And it's tricky because as long as people not really are informed of this thing existing, it's going to be hard for people to find it and find joy in it. You look at skiing as an example that went from just regular DH racing skiing to freestyle and now slopestyle, and they have half pipe and all that stuff in the Olympics. That's a transition that has taken a lot of time. And it all comes down to time, really, I think. I would want to think that we one day would make it there with slopestyle, at the same time as I'm not really too worried about it, because it's in a really good spot as it is.
That's what I was going to say.
Outlet.
That's what I was going to say. Do you think mountain bike sloping? Do you think mountain biking slopestyle actually needs the Olympics?
No, I don't think we need it. The joy of the sport, the passion within the sport, the people within the sport. We don't need Olympics to make it any better. Like, it's awesome.
What do you think?
The Crankworx here, and like, yeah.
What do you think it's missing though? How about that? Is it missing anything? Is mountain biking slopestyle missing anything today?
Both yes and no. I think it goes for all sports, but as a slopestyle rider, unless you're consistently at the world tour performing, it can be really hard to make a living out of it. And it can also really be a struggle to make a living out of slopestyle. During your first season, second season, third season, if you're not stacking results, it can be really difficult to make a living out of it. And that's something which we've seen a transition within the last couple of years. More people are moving on from being super focused on contest and more into content. And some people are fully content creators when it comes to riding bikes, and that's how they bring value to sponsors. And there's no wrong or right way to do it. We all have our own path, and I think it's rad that we even in the first place get to ride bikes for a living. Like, just thinking about that as a kid growing up, like there were no more nothing that seemed more appealing to me than that. Like, I can go out and ride my bike every day, and that's it.
Right.
Like, I can still eat nice food and live a healthy life.
You still can live a life that you want to live. Yeah. It's grown a lot. And just to give you a perspective, like, would you win yesterday? 25,000 was first place, or 20?
25, I think.
So you got 25,000
Canadian dollars.
Okay. Do you know how much I got the first year I won Crankworx?
No.
3,000 Canadian.
It's come a long way.
So that tells you like it's in the
Yeah.
right direction. It's cool to see it. You know, that was 19 years ago. So
Yeah.
from 3,000 to 25,000, maybe another 10 years from now would be maybe 100,000. So it's in the right direction, which is cool.
You definitely would hope, and there's good things happening behind the scenes. I have trust that there will be changes within the sport that will make it easier for riders to keep showing up to the events, because after the pandemic it's been so expensive to travel, which has also been one of the reasons why a lot of people have actually needed. I know people that have qualified for Crankworx, but they haven't been able to financially afford a trip to Crankworx. So therefore they needed to shut down their spot, and someone behind in the list have been able to qualify for it. And that's difficult to see as a fan of the sport. Like, you want to see everyone that's capable of performing at that level to show up and not need to be limited by their financial situation.
Damn, I didn't know that. That's heavy.
Yeah, and that's the case, but I do believe slowly but surely, as further we move the next couple of years from the pandemic, the more events will pop up, hopefully. I'm hopeful that it will be more events when it comes to goal events, like more places for riders that are hungry to get into Crankworx, to gain experience and gain enough points for them to qualify for Crankworx.
So if you qualify for Joyride so this year, if you qualified for it, they don't take care of any of the logistics, like as far as getting you here, only lodging?
We get free lodging throughout the week, and this year they've provided athlete with like food vouchers throughout the week, which is sweet because it's so expensive.
Cool. I get it. I love Darren Kennard, and I love what he's doing for the sport. We just gotta get more money in there to help with the travel costs so these kids can get here.
And like one thing that have changed throughout the years is like, I don't really know how it used to be back in your day, but I believe like the podium got paid, and then
it was like,
I don't think you got much pay if you got like 5th or 20th. No, it was kind of the same.
It was like top 3, and then 4th place maybe $100.
Yeah. So that has changed. Now it's like, as long as you're in the show, you get somewhat paid. But it is difficult. Like Australia as an example, by the time the money reached my account before I claimed the tax back, it's half.
Brutal.
They have like 45% tax or whatever it is, and I need to claim that tax back. And unless you have the infrastructure with an accountant or a tax person to help you with that stuff, which is also something you need to pay for, you just lose all that money. Even though you're a taxpayer in both, or even though you're a good taxpayer in the country you come from, you have to tax the money twice, which is very unfortunate when you're doing an event that is abroad and doing all those things.
And it sucks when the currency is not at the same level.
Yeah, there's a lot of people getting fooled by that. They're like, oh, I win 25K here. And it's like,
no,
it's not 25,000 euros. Like, it is different. And that's not on the event, that's not on the currency, that's on each person, I think, to calculate and make justice for like, okay, how much money it really is. But I do hope that.
But I guess if you lived in Mexico and you won 25,000 Canadian, you're pumped.
I don't know. I don't really know the currency exchange there.
It's cheap.
Yeah. In Sweden, like, it's a higher tax country for sure, but a lot of good things come from that as well. So
what's next for you, man? You just won Crankworx for the 3rd time, Joyride, here we are. Like, what's next? Like, what do you want to do now? Like, what is there to do? Like, is there something that you have yet to do in your career that you want to accomplish?
For sure. Career wise and life wise, there's multiple things that I still want to do, and some things I have no stress with, and other things I I have a bigger urge to get those things started. And yeah, next for me this year, just trying to get the shoulder fixed and all healed up. I would assume, I don't know, from the people that I've spoken to, it should only take a couple of weeks, but yeah, it probably will take more. As from own experience, it usually takes longer to actually get up to full speed again. But yeah, a couple of weeks until this is fully healed, and then this probably won't go live before it gets announced anyway. So I did get the email a couple of days ago for Rampage.
Rad.
So that's next for me this year. And that's like one thing that I've definitely wanted to move more into. Because it's been difficult with the schedule overlaps the last couple of years to actually even be on the start gate for Rampage. And I've been alternate a couple of years, so I'm very stoked to be back in the mix and look forward to going out there and see if it's something I want to pursue. Because I was out there in 2019, but I didn't really feel like I gave it the attention it needed, or I couldn't, because I got the notice like very last minute. I flew out. I arrived in Utah like barely a week before the contest. I didn't even have diggers sorted 5 days before we were supposed to start digging. Like, it was just very quick. So, and it was the second year venue. I kind of got squeezed in the corner of the whole site, and I didn't really feel like I managed to show my riding capabilities, and I felt very limited. So I'm looking forward to getting back. And
answer me this: will you be showing up in a single crown?
Yes, I will.
I think that's the smartest decision you're going to make at Rampage. And I think just by doing that, you're going to do really well. I had a reader on the pod a couple days ago, and we were chatting about the benefits of single crowns at Rampage.
Yeah.
And you're one of those athletes that should be capitalizing, rocking a single crown fork at Rampage.
I do believe it has its purpose, and it's yeah. When you look at other sports, like the closest we get to Rampage is backcountry skiing, backcountry snowboarding. When they go from the park to the backcountry, just strictly looking at what they have on their feet, they're going from a skinnier ski to a wider ski. But that ski still skis switch. It still does all the things the skinnier one does. It can be limited in some ways, but like, you need it to be out there doing that stuff. And I look at a free ride bike the same way. Like, if I have a dual crown, I'm strictly limited to just doing spins, and my capabilities goes way beyond that. And if I can have a bike that's just as capable but single crown, and I can do one tail whips or one bar spin in my run, or can just be the simplest thing as a proper T-bog. Like, you can't even do a proper T-bog with a dual crown bike. So things like that.
I love it. And I'm stoked that you're showing up to Rampage on a single crown, because that's the only event that you have yet to win in your career.
Well, I don't, yeah.
Well, that's the biggest. I mean, that's the one that you need to win.
Long term, I will see how far I can get down that route, but it's definitely not something I'm like if you're looking to do this year,
right?
Or
but no, you're still young, but
it would be cool to one day accomplish that. And I mean, I'm sitting on the shoulders of giants. Like, we have so many phenomenal athletes that in the past have been able to go from SlopeStyle to Rampage and put down winning runs, and it's sick to see, and it's very it's inspiring to see people extend their capacities outside their original sport or original niche, I would say more.
There's only been a handful of athletes to be able to win a Crankworx title and a Rebel Rampage title. There's only a few to ever do that, and I think you can do that.
We'll see. We'll see.
You just gotta make sure you don't get the invitation last second and actually spend some time in Utah, because I know you don't have that type of terrain
Yeah.
back home. So maybe what do you do? Do you go post up for a summer in Virgin, Utah, and practice? And
Yeah, I'm gonna try to spend some solid time there before we start digging and finding a good dig crew, as well as just spending time on my big bike, like being comfortable with it and being used to it. Because I feel like I get to ride my big bike so little throughout the season just because I'm so focused on the Crankworx stuff, that once I get on it, I need like a day or two to like really reassess and like feel fully comfortable with it again. So it's going to be fun and refreshing to get on a different bike after this for sure.
all right, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Top 5 best free riders to ever do it. Name
Top
them.
5 best free riders to ever do it. Oof, I hate comparing things.
And this is in your perspective. There's no right answer to this. Like, who had the biggest impact in your career, or just like as a child, like growing up, or you just respect in the scene? Like, there's no wrong way to answer this.
So I got into biking, like when I started being heavily into it, I was like 2012. So not much before 2012 has had it. Like there are a few select moments. Like I remember as I was a Swede, I got to watch Martin do his thing, and he was a big influence coming from Sweden. He kind of showed it was possible to grow up in Sweden, even though we didn't have all the facilities and private properties that a lot of the pros had back then already. And it's mountain biking slopestyle wise. Are we like, first of all, are we talking free riding as just slopestyle free ride all?
Don't overthink it. Don't
Okay.
overthink it.
So I'm just looking at it as the like everyone that kind of okay. Martin has been really heavily been a big influencer, or have had a lot of influence on me as a kid growing up. Brendan Semenak has had a lot of influence. Brett Reeder has had a lot of influence, and I would say Brett and Brandon has had a lot of influence due to the fact that they were head to head throughout the years that I've started getting into sport and like looking at it, and they were way ahead of the game compared to a lot of the other people in the field. They were pushing tricks and making slopestyle kind of what it is today. And yeah, another two. Anthony is one person I actually shout out in the live stream, because I mentioned how much of an impact he had on me at a young age. Because even though he's not competing at the moment, when I grew up, he's born 96, I'm born 99. Back in 2011, I saw him as a 15-year-old take part at Crankworx and actually get third. And I was like, what? Like, is that possible? Like, you can be that young, you can show up, you can be up against the heavy hitters. And he bailed in his third run, I think it was, because they had a super final back then.
Right. It was 3 runs.
And he didn't even get to do his full run, and he was still like close to being up there. And I was like, that kind of sparked something in me. And I was like, when I was watching that, I was 11 or 12. It's like just playing with the thought that I could be there in 3 years. But I was trying my best. I didn't accomplish that, but I was 17 when I got here instead. And it's like, for me, it wasn't important that I was 15 or that I needed to be 15 when I got here. I just wanted to be ready once I got here. I kind of didn't compete that much internationally up until 2016 because I didn't feel like I had enough experience. I didn't feel enough confidence that I would be able to actually perform, because it costs a lot of money to travel. So I was not trying to ask my parents for money unless I actually felt it was worth investing. So, and then number 5 out of athletes, I don't know. I hate this because I feel like I'm missing so many guys anyway.
There's so many good riders out there.
Yeah, there's so many, and they're like different riders have been very heavily influenced on me during different periods. Like one guy I always loved to watch because of his riding style has been Lakandagi. As a kid growing up, he's been like this cool Spanish rider with a lot of attitude on his bike, and when it comes to free riding and the whole Fest Series movement that kind of happened back in 2013, 14, that time they were doing their own thing as well with like more free ride things. He's always a person that comes to mind during that time period.
Lakandagi riding out the top 5. Hey, Emil, thank you for coming on to the podcast today. Congratulations on your 3rd title here at Crankworx Joyride. It's been an honor to watch you. You are changing the sport. Never in a million years, 19 years ago when I won this event, did I think I would see where SlopeStyle is today, and it's in good hands. Enjoy that bottle of Cristal with the boys, and thank you for coming on to the Rise and Ride podcast.
Thank you very much.
Heck yeah, buddy.